What's up, everyone, and welcome to our PAX panel here called Fight for the Future, How the FGC Can Improve. So I am your host, David Giltinan here, basically the moderator for this panel. And I want to, have everyone introduce themselves here. So let's start off with Alicia.
Hi, I am Alicia, also known as Aliciaxlife. I am a team owner. I am also a professional commentator and a content creator. That's all there is to me.
All right, BigCheese.
Hello there. My name is Jakeem BigCheese Johnson, and glad to be here with everybody. I am your entertainer for the night. Not wrong. Content creator, streamer, improviser, whatever you want to call me. My life, your entertainment.
All right, Cuddle Core.
Hi, my name is Cuddle or G-Nail, and I'm a professional esports player for Equinox Gaming. I compete in Tekken 7. I'm also a streamer, and I also am now a gaming coach for EXO Academy Season 2.
Nice.
James.
My name is James Chen. I'm one half of the UltraChen TV duo, and I'm a commentator for fighting games, and I also consider myself a fighting game historian of sorts, having played fighting games for 2 decades now.
Like a connoisseur, if you will. Yeah. Very good. And David.
Hey, my name is David, aka Ultra David, and actually I've been playing fighting games for 2 decades, and James has been playing fighting games for a decade longer than that. I'm the other half of UltraChen TV. I'm a commentator in fighting games and also an attorney who represents players and broadcasters and tournament organizers and teams in the FGC and other parts of esports too.
Putting James on blast over here. All right.
Yeah, no, I forgot.
You had a conversation like that. That was crazy.
I saw the right-click menu pop up because I was trying to secretly mute David there, but
all right. And as I said before, my name is David Giltinan. I am the host for ARGcast, which is short for Another Retro Gaming Podcast. Been around for over 4 years now. Content creator at large, if you will. I do freelance writing and voiceover as well. And they do like a number of different panels. So this is actually the 4th year in a row now I've done PAX panels for. So a little bit of a veteran, I guess, at this sort of thing. So let's jump right to it. So basically, the FGC has had a rough year with the cancellation of events, most notably EVO, and having its own MeToo moment with sexual assault allegations within the Smash Brothers community, and even against one of the organizers of EVO. So the question I wanted to start off here for all of you is, was 2020 the year things seemed to go wrong for the FGC, or did it just bubble to the surface an underlying problem that was always there?
I think that it's always been a problem that's always been there, but I think there has always been this fear that if people speak, that they'll get blacklisted or opportunities will be taken away from them. And I think especially with tournaments being canceled and we're kind of like all in this like very like slow spot right now and we're all kind of at home. I think there's a lot of reflecting. I think there's people realizing there's change that needs to be had. So people are, they're banding together. They're realizing there needs to be things that need to be fixed. So I think it was a bad place for the FGC to be. I think it needed to happen. And I think 2020, though it's been very chaotic, it was necessary so that we can start reshaping how the FGC should be.
I completely agree with Cuddle. I think that instead of seeing it as I think it's the positive direction. It's the direction we need to go. And if anything, this is a good thing. And when seeing it as the way it is, like with COVID, that's a different story, right? Like that's an unfortunate situation. That's a very terrible thing that's going on in the world. And for tournaments to be canceled for those reasons, yeah, that's terrible. But when talking in relation to the Me Too movement, this is essential, right? Unless it's taken seriously, things will not move forward, right? Like I chose to back out of commentary before EVO was canceled because I couldn't stand for it. Like it was something that I truly wasn't aware of, and my ignorance bothered me because once I became educated about what was going on around me, like, hey, this is what's happening. Like, are you okay with that? Can you stand with that? And can you work in that environment? And the answer is no, I couldn't. Right. So me and other commentators we pulled out instantly. Players started pulling out, teams started pulling out. And it wasn't just because of like, oh, it's a movement. Oh, it's canceled culture. It's more than that. It's understanding, do your values and do your principles hold merit? Do they actually mean something? And will you put that to the test? Or will you just say it for the sake of saying it and let it be a passing phase?
Yeah, Yeah, one of the tricky things about it is, a lot of the people out there who are against this kind of thing call it cancel culture, et cetera, et cetera. But, I really don't like, I guess, that kind of language, because really when you talk about cancel, it's kind of negative. It's like, oh, you're trying to prevent things from happening. But what you're actually doing by improving these situations, by calling these situations out, is you're actually enabling people to go, because the safer we make the environment, the more likely people will be able to go to these events and have a good time, and to actually have the repercussions for people who do wrong things, who do bad things. That makes people feel safer. I always bring up Combo Breaker, one of the biggest tournaments in the country, as an example. Rick Thayer, the Hado, does a great job, promoting, welcoming, and making sure to keep everybody safe there. And when you're at the event, you can see it. Like, it probably has one of the largest male to female kind of like diversity ratios, like one of the more equal ones out of all the fighting game events. And I don't think that's an accident.
Yeah, I think it's also something that gets brought up with me a lot, though, is especially being like an advocate for women in the community, is that people who tend to not be on the map feel uncomfortable in events, right? And Combo Breaker is an amazing event. Rick is an amazing person. Like, even Jabali, like Jabali and CEO is amazing. Like, there's a lot of events that are amazing and have amazing people running them. But for people who don't have, I guess, influence within the scene, they feel helpless in a lot of these scenarios. And then they have to turn to people who they know have influence to make a difference. And that is where a big disconnect happens. And already talking to event organizers about this, about creating safe spaces, creating booths where people can report, not just injury booths, but where they can create safe spaces. So they're dedicated safe spaces where they're people who are neutral outside of the scene, like counselors, like therapists, like people who have backgrounds in psychology that can help out people during this. If there's a trauma that happens, anything that makes people feel safe, even if there's somebody who's brand new at their first tournament to someone who's been a veteran this entire time. And that's something I would really love to be implemented. And I think that this is the time for it to finally be done, just because of what's happening now.
As far as the year goes, I think that I just view it as very important. And I agree with people saying that this is kind of stuff that has been there. Certainly, I mean, some of the allegations go back 15, 20 years. So clearly it is like a long-term sort of problem. And it's very important, right? It's something that we need to go through. And I also don't really think that it's a coincidence that it happened during COVID times, because as you know, you guys were just talking about, Alicia was just talking about this, at events, people feel the pressure to not talk about this sort of stuff, right? But when we're all at home, there's no possibility of going to any major events. They're all being canceled. They're being canceled for the foreseeable future, for the year, minimum. The sort of expected consequences are going to be less, because you are less commonly going to be in those physical situations where you may feel unsafe, where you may feel that these consequences could be placed upon you. So not to say that there's no consequences for this stuff, right? There's plenty of online interactions that are still quite negative, but the us all sitting at home and thinking about all the things that we've been through and not being able to hang out with other people and not expecting the same sort of negative consequences, I think is part of why it all welled up in around the same time period, right? Not just for the FGC, but for game devs and for other esports too. Like, we're all sort of in this strange little mindset where we may be doing things that maybe we wouldn't if we were traveling and seeing each other and worried about the potential consequences of like a normal year. So I think that it's super important, and it's nothing's good about coronavirus, to be clear. But secondarily,
glowing reviews or anything like that for coronavirus.
Yeah, but it has afforded this opportunity, I think, for people to actually come out with the stuff that they've been holding on to for a long time, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that it's also. Oh, I'm so sorry. I think it's just one of those things too, where like there's a lot of like. Of course, we talked about backlash, as James was talking about, right? Where people tend to say like cancel culture and has a negative connotation with it. And when thinking about all of that and the cases that have come forward, there's also moments where we've seen video evidence of this happening, of people interacting with minors and physically touching them at events, where we were not made aware of until now. So it's like it goes from allegations to being factual. And at that point, like, what point do people like knock off this childish mentality of, oh, you're all just on like a bandwagon, to, hey, we're now holding people accountable. Stop. Like, and also the difference between, Cuddle and I talked about this on FGC Woke before our podcast, and it's like we talked about like tearing something down that's not okay, and like making sure we create an environment that's healthier versus putting somebody on a podium, right?
Yeah,
And
I mean, you definitely kind of hit something that's very close to home for me, because I actually had to distance myself, like just like completely cut out my former co-host for my podcast, actually for very similar reasons, actually, because of being accused for sexual assault or stalking, things like that, like during PAX East this year. So all that kind of went down, and I had to just kind of like make it known that like kind of to distance myself, and thankfully people understood as far as like his actions compared to my actions, and the brand of the show and all that stuff. But it's why it is very important though to kind of speak up on these things, and as soon as possible as well. Obviously like that's going to be different for different people, like depending on how comfortable you are with coming out, like depending on like what it is that happened to you, or what someone may have done to you, or whatever it may be. But the sooner the better, really, because then that that holds that person accountable, makes more people aware as far as like what kind of behavior to look out for from people like that. Cheese, I was kind of curious on your take on this as well, since you're kind of like more, I guess, like the outsider looking in from the of the FGC, kind of like how I am as well. So I'm really curious to hear on your take.
For the FGC, you believe that? But how I look at this, I really feel like this was the year of a rude awakening, because people don't understand that this has been going on for years, and people have decided to speak up about it, not only because what's going on with COVID, but they got fed up with the fact that I'm tired of being quiet. I'm tired of not speaking up. I'm tired of not letting people know exactly what's going on. So when these individuals decided to speak up about it, it was like, okay, now you want to speak about it? Why didn't you say anything a couple of years ago? Why didn't you say anything last year? It's like, because I can't really speak on things until I'm ready. And that's how it is sometimes. But when it came to the point that they were ready to talk, you can see like it wasn't like how they say like, oh, he's exposed. Oh, I knew it. No, it was like, this happened. That person needs to be responsible, and they need to, take consideration of what they've done, apologize to that person. You can move forward, or you can resign, whatever you want to do. But at the end of the day, you are held accountable for what you did or what you've done. And if you don't hold yourself accountable for it, then guess what? That guilt rolls with you for the rest of your life, and it's on your head. It's going to be a black cloud. And the fact of the matter is, you have people that do tell or let people know what's going on, and you have the whole cancel culture not believing in them. So they cancel the person that is telling the truth, while they are, embracing the person that's telling a lie. And that's why it's like, this is why I can't say anything, because this will happen to me. But I'll be doggone if you let a cancel culture stop you from telling the truth. The truth needs to be told, so tell it. Don't worry about the consequences, because I'd rather be canceled telling people what happened to me than be known for not telling people what happened to me. That's a bad thing, because now you're holding yourself, you're holding so much of the truth that if you lie about it, nobody's going to believe you when the truth comes out. So reveal it, let it out.
Totally. Yeah.
Actually, I wanted to say something about that. I feel like, I think people are very justified in keeping that kind of information to themselves, given the type of history that talking about the truth has kind of, revealed. The fact that like when people have discussed, and the fact that when that cancel culture in that group comes up, like, they're attacking the victim, they're pretty much scared into not wanting to talk. So I think then what needs to happen then is at the core, the FGC needs to be fine-tuned in multiple ways, like making it safer for people to talk. The reason why they're not coming out is because the FGC is hostile when it comes to people telling their truths. And that's what's literally been happening, is because there's more enabling than there is checking people, and because there's less accountability, what's happening is, people are allowed to say what they want. They're allowed to attack victims however they want. There's no sort of order to it. There's no protection. And especially like what Alicia was saying in regards to if somebody's doesn't have the same platform. and they're a victim. So what happens is it's even scarier because they'll automatically think, oh, this person has no sort of notoriety or anything, no sort of history, no sort of
following or anything.
Yeah. Exactly. So why would we even want to? Why would we believe them? They'll call them a nobody. They'll call them a clout chaser. They'll call them like there's some sort of agenda instead of it being just, hey, this person took advantage of me. Hey, this person did this to me, and this person has done this to multiple people. This needs to stop. Like that's the way it should be. Like the FGC needs to be changed in that way.
So with that said, as far as like the FGC being hostile in situations like that, this kind of brings up like the next question I wanted to ask. Would you consider the FGC to be inclusive, and how could it improve in this regard?
Okay, so I mean, like,
you got some words, I can tell. Yeah.
It's different because we're like people of color and like LGBT, and it's like we could say it's inclusive, but like, are we really being real about it? No, we're not, because in reality, it's hella not inclusive. This is inclusive, right? To most. Like, let's be real, most men, right? I'm gender fluid. I really couldn't care less about like what gender someone refers to me as. But in reality, right? In reality, it's inclusive for people who feel included, right? The amount of gatekeeping in this community is disgusting. The amount of people who use, especially people who are in positions of power and influential, who use that and go, hey, I have literal clout armor. I can say whatever I want. I can be derogatory towards women. I can hate on Black people. I can do whatever I want because what are they going to do to me, right? I'm still making top 8. So what can they do to me? And that still stands. Like, it hasn't gone away. And to pretend that like, oh, we're so inclusive is such a lie. Is such a lie. And the crazy part about that is that no matter how much we try to be like, oh, we're more inclusive than like League because they are really toxic, or more inclusive than like Overwatch because they're really toxic. Yeah, do a ratio comparison. Talk about how we have way less women in those communities by ratio standards. Why do we have less women than them? There's a reason. Because we aren't inclusive towards women. And what happened even today, I was playing ranked, right? And what's the first message I get when I beat somebody? Girl, I want to eat your ass. What?
This is the problem here. This is okay. Continue.
Is that a compliment or? Cheese is just taking himself out of the panel entirely.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that we can act like, right? And of course there's jokes. Of course I laughed at the camera zoom. We all had a good time, right? Because it's whatever. Like, I'm not going to be like all up in my feelings about it because to me it's an average Tuesday. It's an average Monday. But at the same time, it's like, when it comes to actual events, when it comes to even commentating, right? Like, the first thing that happens is that, people don't care about your merit even until like, because that happened to me a lot when I first started commentary, even was that people didn't take me seriously. And as soon as I walked on, like, the first thing they would do is talk about my appearance. Like, listen, I'm a chubby girl who I love to eat, but I also love to work out. I do my thing, right? And the first thing that happens when I walk on stage is like, bam, instantly comments about how I look, instantly about my appearance, get called the N-word in DMs every single time I commentate without fail. And it's like, all of this builds up on you, right? And it's other commentators of other genders, other religions, everything get this as well. But when females get targeted, they don't even care about the content of what I'm saying until halfway through. And it's like, damn, because like the thing is, at least when like somebody else walks onto the mic, they're like, okay, we'll give him a shot. Oh, he's bad, cool, now we'll dog him, right? But it's like they don't give it that beat. And I'm lucky enough that in the Caliber communities, like when I go on the mic and someone does that stuff, the chat will like just gang up on them and be like, excuse you, put respect on it. She's been here studying, putting in this work. Where have you been? Where have you showed up, right? Like, they'll do that. But at the same time, it's like, what about those people who try out their first time, right? Those women, those people of color, anybody, right? Who tries out their first time. Why are they so gatekept when they're just trying to make it and just trying to, move up? What happens when Cuddle walks on stage, right? Cuddle's one of the best players in North America. And she even gets dogged. What? Are you kidding me? That's not inclusive. That's not inclusive. And I know that this happens for other genders, and that's unfortunate. I'm not saying that, oh, it's just women, screw men. I'm not trying to say that. I'm trying to say is that there is a problem, though. That's my 2 cents. James, what do you think?
No, I mean, kind of to tag along with that, I've talked about it a lot on social media, that women have a hard time getting themselves into the community because they're targeted and they have, they're treated badly. And I get people arguing with me, oh, you know what? We talk just as much smack to guys. I'll talk smack to guys too. It's the same and everything. And I said, it's not the same, because you'll see this happen all the time when, like, let's say you're playing at a casual station and a girl sits down next to you and starts playing. You'll pick your secondary character. You'll try to go easy on them. In other words, you've already judged them before they sat down. Whereas if a guy sits next to you, you're going to be like, shoot, how good is he? I don't, like, if you've never seen this person before, you're like, how good is he? I'm going to play my main character. I'm going to be all serious about everything, The girl is judged the instant she walks in the door, and the guy, is not. And so if the guy turns out to be bad, then you start talking smack or whatever like that, but you're doing it based off of what you're finding out. But with women, and a lot of times you already have an opinion. You already have a preconceived notion if you don't know anything about him. If Cuddlecore sat next to you in a Tekken machine, and you're like, I better go easy on her. I mean, she's gonna kick your ass. So, that's just one of those things. Like, but your brain, if you've never met her before, when she sits down, you're gonna be like, oh, that's cool. A girl is playing, and and that's the kind of thing that we need to stop. Is that prejudgment. To get rid of that preconceived notion that, if a girl sits down next to you to play a game, you treat her just like everyone else. Oh my gosh, how good is she? I'd better be serious about this kind of thing.
I mean, like, for me, I always kind of called it the ain't that cute mentality. Just like whenever you see like a girl like try to come up, it's like, oh, playing video games. Oh, that's cute. Let's see what you got. And then like when they actually have, skill, like you actually like surprise yourself in that case. At least if you already have those preconceived notions anyway.
Yeah.
Ultra Dave, I was kind of curious on your take as well.
Well, I see it by absence. So I'm a straight white man, and I have never been attacked on stream for being a guy, and I've never been attacked on stream for being white, and I've never been attacked on stream for being straight. But I see my friends have to deal with that stuff constantly. When they're commentating or when they're playing, that happens all the time. And so that's a very obvious difference for me, right? I'd notice the difference if I'm the one commentating or if it's somebody else who may look different in whatever way. But I see it separately as well. So those are some parts of my identity. But another part is that I'm a Jew. And when people know that, most people are not jerks about it. But the only time that I get attacked is on that point. So I've never been on Twitter. I've never been blown up for being a guy or white or whatever. That's never happened to me. It happens all the time that I get attacked for being Jewish. And this kind of puts the lie to the idea that there's inclusivity, right? Because I'm in sort of maybe 3/4 of my identity, you might say. I've never been attacked ever. The 1/4 gets attacked. And it's the same for people who are, not as sort of free from having to worry about this stuff as I am in those other ways. The history of it is that, in the arcade, we felt that we were being inclusive with each other. That was not right? It was not right. But that's sort of our feeling. I remember it. But with that inclusivity was boiled in exclusivity, right? That was an inherent part of it. It was to section ourselves off as here was what we defined as inclusive, not women, right? Not gay people, not trans people at that time either. It was a very delineated line, and there were only a couple of exceptions in all of North America, or people who did fall into those other categories, who were willing to put up with all the crap. It was not many people. And so we've continued to sort of tell this fable about how we are inclusive, even though it was defined negatively in the first place. And that's now, I think, made it so that some people kind of cling to this idea that it is inclusive in a way that deals harm, because it's not allowing them to see that, in fact, there are these major ways that we're not inclusive and that we're, in fact, not a great spot to be for many different people. But they're blinded to that because they have this sort of myth that we've made that the FGC is inclusive.
Now, Cheese, I know you're a very competitive guy yourself, actually. And I know you love fighting games also. So I was kind of curious, I guess, like your experience, I guess, with people within the FGC or like those hardcore fighting game players, like whether they were inclusive towards you or not.
Well, people fear what they don't understand and hate what they can't conquer. I always go by that quote because if you look at the FGC, it's predominantly male. So when you have a person of color, a female, or a gay individual that takes over something that is supposed to be predominantly male, it's a fear factor. It's like, oh, they're taking over. What are we going to do about this certain thing, et cetera, et cetera. And it's like
they're taking our gerbs. Yeah,
it shouldn't be like that because gaming is for everybody. You know what I'm saying? And some people are better than you. Some people have to accept that. Hey, this person's better than you. She beat you down. Like she didn't show you no mercy. Like this is not Mortal Kombat, But at the end of the day, how I see it is not inclusive at all. Okay, because everybody has a chance to do something within the FGC. The only thing is people fear the fact that everybody, wants it to be male dominant. Any game that you play, any game that you see for yourself is not male dominant. Women can play games than most men. I've seen it for myself. I witnessed it for myself. It's the acceptance of the women playing better. And some men can't imagine that. They be like, what's she doing on here? She belongs in the kitchen. Or, oh, what was she doing on here? You better go wash the dishes or wash the clothes. And it's like, she just did that and beat you.
Yeah,
you gonna get mad at her for that?
Yeah, exactly.
And it boggles me because like it's not like gaming is just for a particular sex or a particular gender or a particular race or whatnot. Like Sonic Fox, when I watch him play, I watch him as a person play. I don't look at him being gay. I don't look at him being any of that because I'm not that judgmental.
Fox goes by them.
Right, I'm not the type of person to be judgmental. And Sonic Fox will tell you in a minute, I'm gay. You know what I'm saying? Like he'll tell you that in a quick minute. But I dare you to play him in any game fighting. Any game possible, Street Fighter, Skullgirls, whatever it is. He will put you on the floor and leave you there until you get wrecked. Good game, but but he's a good sportsman as well.
Cheese, Cheese. Fox goes by them.
Yeah.
Say it again.
Fox goes by them, like they.
Okay.
Them.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Okay, my bad.
Yeah,
sorry, Fox. Love you. Sorry. But just be known, like anybody can play the game and anybody can be victorious.
Yeah.
But in a man's mind state, they have to stop having this in their mind that it's just predominantly male. They have to stop doing that. And with the second that they start accepting women in gaming, gay people in gaming, trans people in gaming, when they start accepting that, it will be a better place for the FGC.
One thing I kind of wanted to tag on here that I don't fully agree with when it comes to Cheese, like respectfully so though, because I think that you had the right intent when it came to this part, but I just don't agree with it, would be the way in which women are seen as separate when it comes to gaming. So for example, when you're talking about like an Overwatch and stuff like that, when she like go do the dishes or whatever, that's not the thing that's happening here. That's not what's happening to women right now. So that's the stereotype of what happens to women. We get hated.
That's what I was saying. Sorry if I confused it.
It's okay, and because that's the thing is, I know you have the right intent in coming to it. It's a place of hatred, right? It's where they discredit what you've done. It's not about you have the inability to do it. It's where you've done it. And they're still discrediting to the next degree. So, for example, Cuddlecore winning a tournament. What do they do, right? It's not a real major. That's the first thing that some people will say to her.
They downplay
Why?
it, yeah.
And that's the thing, right? Is that it's a place of hatred that's so large that people can't hold on to the value of what they've done.
Right.
Because they're trying to strip that away from them. And that's a massive degree of an issue, right? For example, it's like, even where it's like where I get an opportunity to commentate, right? Like originally, like even up until maybe a few months ago, I always felt like I felt super blessed to get a commentary position, and I still do feel extremely thankful, but I earned it. And that's something that I never could hold on my own because I was constantly being fed into this scenario where I believed that I was given this opportunity. No, I earned it. I earned it like any other person would have earned it in the same position. I commentated top 8 at EVO, I commentated World Finals. At what point do I not realize, hey, you might have just earned the spot instead of being spoon-fed an opportunity, right? Like, you did it. And then that's something that Cuddle corrected me on constantly because she realized that I was being fed into this mentality that was like, oh, if you're given something, it's because you were given it, not because you earned it. And she's like, no. You put in the work. You've done this. You made it here. This is you, right?
It's a mentality that kind of comes with like the system at play in that case.
Exactly. And it's like Cuddle is one of the pillars when it comes to this in the community of understanding that no matter how much other people, even if they are technically the outliers that discredit you, is that you still hold that. You still hold the merit of what you do. But it doesn't mean that doesn't get to you at the end of the day because it feeds on this weird pack mentality that does create an insecurity. So it's like to say it's just like, oh, it's a like trashy statement towards you. It's more than that. It's something that builds upon itself where they try to feed in fake factual information that doesn't actually create a placeholder, where they try to pull up statistics that actually don't like relate to the conversation just because it justifies a means to their ends, right? And that's the issue that we're facing here.
Yeah. To where it's like they discredit, like say for instance, they earned what you've earned. Then they take all the credit for it. But if you earned it, they'll be like, "Oh, that's nothing," and that's what happens. And it sucks that they look at it that way because you earned it. Like it like you said, it wasn't given to you. Like I put in work. I've beaten people and best out of 3, best out of 5. I've earned this position. And for you to sit there and downplay that, like that's just blatantly disrespectful. You're gonna put respect on my name, and it's crazy that you have to put in twice the word, 3 times the word just to show that. And you shouldn't have to do that.
That's honestly.
I was gonna say that like it's the knee-jerk reaction. So it's basically how to switch that unconscious mentality, if you will, to kind of get people away from that mentality. And I don't know, like I don't know if it's kind of like a generational thing, but like it's definitely one of those things that kind of like takes time as like more progressive viewpoints, if you will, kind of overtake that. So I just want to kind of move over actually to more of like the online side of things actually. So there are hardcore fans who call for all fighting games to adopt a rollback netcode model to improve the online experience. Do you agree with this? And in what other ways do you think online fighting games could be better?
I don't think anybody here is going to argue against rollback netcode.
No, I'm not saying to argue against it, but I mean, like,
no. I'm just saying that we're all definitely pro rollback netcode. There is no question.
That seems to be the unanimous decision in this case.
Right.
I did want to add, like, with making the online experience better, like, netcode, like the rollback being, better, like every game having a model for it would be great. But not just that, but more money put into these tournaments as well, because we still have this problem where players like aren't getting paid that much. And now that we don't have tournaments offline, I think maybe a lot of that money can maybe be given to paying more of the like the top 8 or like top 16, because the pros and the players or whatever, we're still putting in that work. We're still like showing up. We're like competing, and I think now we need to start focusing more on like paying them more for their time and bringing that entertainment as well. Because it doesn't have to be like in a physical seat for it to be entertainment. But I definitely think that's a really big problem still. But it's changing because there's a lot more money being presented for players to earn in fighting game tournaments online, which is good.
So when you say like more money being put into like the online tournaments, are you saying like that money being put into improving like on like the netcode basically, and in order to improve on that online experience?
Oh no, I just mean like in online tournaments there should definitely be like bigger prize pools in general, because there was a big problem. Like a lot of like players were talking about when we were playing offline, there wasn't a lot of money. There's something I heard. It was like, okay, yeah, if you got like top 8 and you're like 7th, you get like $100. That is a shame. That should not be happening. And there's a problem with the community in regards to that. But I was saying, like, since we don't have offline tournaments right now, and a lot of that money was probably going to like, venues and stuff like that, maybe we can give some of that to more of these online tournaments that are starting to pop up more, so that we can start, giving people what they deserve in that sense. That's what I was saying.
Is like part of that, you think, because of like fighting games being I guess like more of like a niche genre, and so like there just isn't like enough not like enough money, but like enough like I guess like interest from, say, like sponsors, for example, to kind of put in like, you know, I guess like bigger prize pools for like these tournaments?
That wouldn't be the case in my opinion, because I look at other games that have like the tournaments, and they have these Twitch rivals, and they have everything here. Shoot, even Fall Guys, but it's crazy how like games with so much history, like Street Fighter, like Tekken, like Mortal Kombat, they don't have a bigger prize pool when it comes to like even offline and online. And I've been in events with Twitch rivals to where like the person come in 16th to 20th place, they get like $200, and it's like, how is it that these individuals that's in these tournaments, top 8, at least get $1,000 tops, at least? And they go through plenty of people to reach top 8. It's not like, oh, I'm just going to fight these 60 people here and that's that. They go through hundreds, thousands. I witnessed it myself. Like, all these people are here to fight. Who's going to make top 8? And the top 8 only gets $100. That's not even like a quarter of my plane ticket going back to where I came from.
Right.
Like, it's a slap to the face. It's disrespectful. So I truly believe they deserve more. They need to earn more, and I feel like the companies need to invest more into these players as well. So it's not just the sponsors themselves; it's the companies that put out these games, and these individuals are making them a lot more popular than what it should be.
Studios, yeah.
There's a few issues with offline tournaments. You're sort of as the tournament organizer or as the broadcaster, you are bargaining for sponsorships based on like 10 different games that people are going to show up to watch or show up to play. So you have a lot more people there who can give eyes to whatever you're advertising, and that's like worth more money usually. Whereas online, it's really hard to do that. It's much more separated. You can just watch the Tekken stream, or you could just watch the Street Fighter stream, and they're just like not related really. Just very different. But then additionally, just like from a legal perspective, there's states and a province in Canada and several countries that have laws so that you can't pay in money into a prize pot that then you are also paid out of at the end. Some jurisdictions consider that gambling. So the way that many tournaments have gotten around that is by not taking in money, not having an entry fee in the first place. So the prize pots are much smaller than it's just the bonus that's given to the players at the end, because you don't have that extra like set of fees that goes into it in the first place. So being online, it sucks in a lot of ways, but like one of them is that player prize pots are harder to be as large because you don't have this like sort of amalgamated advertising, and you have legal constraints on it as well. Sucks.
Understandable.
That's what makes it so difficult.
Kind of going back, I guess, to a little bit about improving the online play just for the FGC in general. With outside of rollback netcode, one of the things that I've been talking about, which I've been preaching a lot, really, is that I really honestly think that playing fighting games online is kind of a miserable experience, because you just go on ranked, you play people that you don't know, and then you think that they're laughing at you and they beat you or whatever like that. It's just, it's a very lonely process. And I feel like I don't know the answer. I've been racking my brain for it for years on how to improve the online experience, but I definitely feel like, just ranked, going up the ladder, trying to get yourself stronger and everything, there needs to be more to it to kind of promote the community environment, to just give you more rewards, because when you're playing it, all you're doing is seeing your rank go up and down, and it's discouraging and it's hard, and I think it's a lot of work. And like I said, I don't know what the answer is right now, because if I did, then I would probably have told everybody, do this. But
work for Capcom or something in that case.
I would like to see, obviously rollback netcode would be a huge boon for online play improvement, but there's got to be more. Like Guilty Gear Strive, the beta came out, they had those crazy floors with the rooms, and you had the avatars running around and jumping, and it was awful. It was awful. They implemented it so badly, but weirdly enough, I get what the idea behind it is. I like the idea. I think the implementation was awful, but I think if they tweaked it, they could do something really cool with that. But
agree.
I would just like to see more developers experiment in that way, trying to make the online experience more of a journey, more like RPG-ish, instead of you just sitting in menus watching numbers go up and down. I just feel like there's got to be more to it, and that will attract more people to keep grinding in the ranked, because a lot of the times you'll play ranked, you'll lose 10 matches in a row, and you're just like, why am I doing this?
Yeah. I mean, Arc System Works games seems to kind of implement that, like in a lot of their games anyway, as far as like having the lobbies be like you as an avatar, kind of like, butting heads with like other little avatars or whatever. So you're basically like advocating, I guess, like for kind of like that being the step in the right direction, but you want to see it go further in this case.
Yeah. Implemented better for sure. Yeah.
I think
Totally.
like also like with it all in mind is one game that does this pretty well for like their online for the experience so far that I've had with it. Like I'm very new to NRS. I just started trying out MK11 rather recently because we all have a bunch of friends. We all do who are into NRS. So it's like I finally decided to give it a shot out of my 3D world, which I have refused to come out of this little cave of 3D games that I play. But my God, how brilliantly they've planned out their game, right? You earn skins, you earn them, and it's like remember in Tag remember even anything prior to Tekken 7 when you wanted to make a creation or make a character, when you would actually have to like grind out treasure battles or online ranked and stuff and get money to buy
remembers.
buy customization to make a character, right? And that was actually fun to do. Where's that? That's gone. That's dead. Right? And that sucks because that was half the fun of playing these games, is like seeing people's cool customs, going into Ghost Battle, running into like Knee's custom randomly for no reason, right? Stuff like that. That actually meant something. And it's like, why are they taking away all these attributes that aren't really like cost like effective to them? Like attributes they've had for every single game until now. And now they're taking right? It's just a weird thing because NRS now is implementing that, which they didn't have it before, right? So it's like rather like we're like regressing the more that we're going forward because we're scared about overwhelming what we currently have. And then for games like NRS, which listen, I know they got Warner Brothers money, right? But at the same time, it's like,
that helps.
We'll disclose that, but like also Bandai got money too. Like it's not like we're full of poverty here. Come on, Tekken was one of the best selling games of the year. You can't be sleeping on that factoid either, just because we're fighting games. Like
I
mean, at the same time.
One of the things I'll add to that though is that the fact that Tekken is one of the best selling fighting games, and it doesn't have any of that stuff is kind of the hard part right there. Because how do you, like, this is one of the things that, when you work for a software company, every time you're like, let's put in this cool feature that people will enjoy, the question's always asked, how much money will that make? I always, like NRS, they they pulled out their netcode and replaced it with rollback netcode on their own. That was amazing. But the funny thing is, I always ask people this question: if Mortal Kombat 11 does not have frame data in the game, how many less copies are they going to sell? Probably like none.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like half the time their frame data is irrelevant. I'm gonna lie to you. It gets crazy. It's crazy how little you just shimmy out of everything. It's crazy. Like I don't.
But even with like games like with Tekken, we didn't have frame data for a very long time. And we had to go on Kirby Norway and like obscure websites. And so we were learning frames on the fly, right? But something that happened was like they did implement frame data. And I did see a lot more people playing the game because the information was accessible to them in real time. But they charged you. And then
I make that money.
You know what? They still did drop that dough because then they what I think literally what stopped people from what would stop people from having more access to Tekken in that like casual way was the fact that like that information wasn't available. You have like 50 characters, right? Plus, and then all those moves, all those techniques, and it's a 3D fighting game, and you have to consider the foreground, the background, and the stepping, and But the moment that they added the frame data, I think it made people feel less afraid. I think they were like, okay, yeah, now we can get more into this. Like this, like it's not like me getting better is more tangible now because I can physically see the frames of everything. So like I definitely feel like with frame data, maybe better customization, less moves because they're trying to add moves. You know, and I think they're thinking that will help the online experience for Tekken, but I don't think new moves is what's necessary right now. Personally, I don't think that's necessary. And characters, maybe one. Okay, that's fine. Throwing that one, fine. Maybe two, that's fine. But like, no, I think they need to. This is something that I talked about with some other pro players. Buff the tutorial mode. Buff that, because the one they had in Tag 2 was not. It was not a tutorial actually. It made no sense. It didn't teach you anything. It was supposed to be fun. But at the same time, if you want people to take your game seriously and still have fun and get in more of an audience, you really got to start considering what is making our game less accessible to people. Nobody's being taught the animations or staggers or things like that.
How anything works, like any of the mechanics or anything. Yeah.
No, people are still doing it on their own. So yeah, put in frame data, but let's take that a step further. For season 4, what they need to do to buff online is now people are at home and they're trying to learn. Give them tutorial mode. Give them it so that they can start we're talking like a really good, like a juicy one, and like and better customization, like MK. Because K has a really good customization. I was gawking at it.
MK also has a really good tutorial mode, right?
It does, yeah.
They have individualized for characters. They go through offense, they go through defense, they go through each mechanic. Like
I was going to mention that. Yeah, it's really good.
As James said, right? It's all about the almighty dollar, though, right? It's all about the almighty dollar. But listen. Wouldn't it be more easier to convince your friends to buy the game if there's actually a tutorial to explain it instead of being overwhelming and in the first hour of them getting the ass beat by their friends and then refunding the game, right? Because that happens all the time, right?
I've been there, yeah.
That's it. Done. Oh,
right? Under 2 hours, refund on Steam. That's what they do, right? And it's like, no. This is
I can't do
it. So that actually segues into like the next question I had actually in terms of how much is the improvement of the FGC on the game developers? So what do you think companies like Capcom, NetherRealm Studios, Bandai Namco, and others could do to help?
To help improve the development of the game?
Like the fighting game experience, whether that be offline or online. What's the onus, I guess, basically on the game developers themselves?
Yeah, it has to be on the game developers. I mean, we don't have the authority to do that kind of stuff. It'd be super great if we did, but we don't. So we just have to hope that they will. And I mean, there's an argument of voting with your dollar, but for many of us, the games that we really enjoy are not the games that have all the features that we want, right? Like you may be a huge Tekken fan and realize like, this is my favorite game, but it doesn't have a great tutorial and it doesn't have great online play. This game has great online play and a great tutorial, but maybe I just don't care about it. And I totally get it. I mean, I for sure. So voting with your dollar is not as easy in those situations because you are in a sense kind of like stuck already.
You're buying the package in this case. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah. That's all you can do. And many of us are sort of stuck in the game sort of sub communities or in the publishers. Well, it's what they want to do, and we're gonna probably play their games, and that doesn't give us a lot of leverage, unfortunately. So there's an argument to like use your leverage, right? Don't buy the next version of the game, but like, are you not gonna play Mortal Kombat 12? Like, if you're a huge MK fan, you probably are.
Right? Chances are you are. Yeah.
Yeah, of course. So there's a limited amount of leverage that we have, and that means that it's on, for many of us at least, it's on the developer to do it. Now, that's not to say those are the hardcore fans. So there are certainly situations or things that game developers could do that would make me a fighting game fan who may not be. I'm not a big Guilty Gear head, but maybe I'll try out this next Guilty Gear if it's a game that maybe is more like the kind of thing that I'm looking for. So I'm already in the FGC, but like, yeah, maybe I'd try this game out if it has great online play. It's going to have rollback netcode apparently. So I'll give it another look. That's not like a hugely expanded market, right? There's only so many people who play fighting games, but at least it is a bigger market, you know? So there is, so me as like not the major Guilty Gear head, like maybe I can vote with my wallet on this, right? So you can sort of do it for the games that you like might enjoy, but the games that you really love, you're probably stuck with. So it is on the devs in that sense.
I did notice that with like communities trying to get things kind of changed in regards to the development of games, like for example, I use Tekken because of course. So something that's happened a lot is I'm sure you guys have noticed that when new characters have been put in the game, they aren't really meshing well with the normal mechanics of Tekken and the traditional way that Tekken is played.
They come on a little too strong, if you will.
We got whole Leroy fiasco in Pokemon, but
they don't even got legs. They don't even got legs, man.
He doesn't even have legs.
He doesn't have legs.
And so something that's been happening is, especially like in regards to Leroy, the community was very vocal. So they're like, hey, you need to change this. Like this does not work. Like he's not like. He has certain frames that none of these characters have, and like he always has his turn. Like people literally, fans were showing videos of real time situations where they were in games fighting against Leroy players, and they're like, "Hey, yo, Namco, this is a problem. Like, look at literally what's going on right here. This should not exist in your game." And whether it was some weird wonky hitbox glitch thing or with the character, but it exists. And with Pokemon, same thing. The fact that if he's walking forward, my low doesn't connect with his legs. That these are things that we don't have tons of leverage, but we do have video, and we have internet, and we have tweets. So and it's definitely worked, because I remember in the testers, like for Namco for Tekken, they randomly for like a week or some change, they had Mishima's Hell Sweep track both ways. That has never existed. You could always like walk to the left, but one guy on the team was a Mishima specialist, and he wanted to put it in there. The community was furious because they said, "Hey, Mishimas have all these other options. That's why we sidewalk and we sidestep left, so we can evade the other ones." Because Hell Sweep is, I won't get into it because I'm nerding out. But the whole thing was like, the community was very vocal, and guess what? They got that mud changed. They got it changed. That would have changed. They would have been like, we can use our voices. I really feel like it's worked multiple times for Namco. Mm-hmm. We can get stuff changed in development. I'm telling you, I think it. Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely think that that's true. And I don't mean to say that if you're somebody who's like dedicated in one community that you shouldn't be talking about it, because we definitely all should be. And I know that like everybody on this call has been doing that. We're definitely all vocal about things. So for sure, you should definitely be doing that. It's just like it's hard to have the financial leverage in our situations in those cases, but definitely be out there talking about it. And I feel like we are as a scene sort of on the right path. Like there are more games that are putting in rollback netcode, for example. There are more companies that are at least talking about it, even if their response is, look, it's not practical for this game, but we're looking into it for the future, for future games. Like there is at least a general trend that it seems like it's sort of all of our efforts and annoyances against them are actually paying off in some ways.
Yeah, and the games are balanced. like as much as we want to complain, I mean, God, you remember, I remember growing up in the 90s, fighting games were not balanced. Nowadays, they're actually pretty good. So at least they're aware, of that level. But I mean, it's a tough one because,
look, Cuddle, you got to trust us, right?
I know about the 90s. Trust me. I was playing those old school games, and I was like 10, and that was years after, and I knew how broken this stuff was. Right. I still feel like this today with some tweaks, but it's just a new version of it, man. I'm telling you, we still got broken games. I swear.
I mean, to be fair, Leroy was probably one of the worst examples of that in a while, because Leroy.
Release as well. How dare you? How dare you offend my people like that? He terrorized a community.
One of the things that kind of scares me, though, is just, because we want to have our voices heard, but, I also want to make sure that developers, when they make a game, they concentrate on fun, they concentrate on an idea, a vision. Because one of the things that scares me the most is Street Fighter V Season 1. Because that game was like the reaction to the complaints about Street Fighter 4. And I feel like it kind of came out as a very weird game. Eventually it found its footing, and Street Fighter 5, it's taken a few years, but is in a really, really good place right now. But I don't know. It's like I want the developers to listen to everybody, but then at the same time, they kind of have to be picky. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure what the best way to do it is.
Yeah. So we have about 5 minutes left here. So I just wanted to present my final question, which is just kind of like, just a very quick one for you all to answer. Who are some heroes within the FGC you'd like to highlight here?
I'd like to highlight Cuddlecore.
Where is she?
That's a hero. That's an absolute unit. Okay, that's period. That's it. That's all there is. Like in reality, right? It's like you have somebody who is constantly putting in this tremendous amount of effort. And yeah, I know she's on the panel, but screw it. She deserves to be talked about twice. Then it's just that like it's when you have somebody who is so dedicated to the scene, so willing to put in the effort and educate people on their ignorance, do an FGC woke with me, putting in all this effort, not just speaking things into existence, but actually applying them, right? And that's what life takes sometimes, is that drive. And even on her worst days, even on the days where she might not feel like she's fully at her top peak performance level, maybe for anything, right? Her low days are still a lot of people's best days when it comes to executing things. And that's incredible. That bar that she has is one of a kind. If you don't call that a legend, I don't know what you call that. Like, come on.
Oh my god.
Give her her
All
flowers.
around. Hey,
Give her her
hey.
I got
Give
you.
her her flowers.
All right, that's all of our answers. All of our answers are Cuddlecore. No, just kidding.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I ain't got no Kleenex, so
Right.
you let it out or hold it in.
All right. Cheese, how about you?
I like for myself, I would say Justin Wong. Like not only has he been in the FGC for years, but I actually sat down with this guy. I talked to him. We was playing Street Fighter 5, and he beat the brakes off me, but I got a few rounds in. But overall, like he taught me like some of the basics and some of the things that as far as like fighting games, and taught me footsies, 50-50s. We fought a lot, not just on Street Fighter, but Killer Instinct, Marvel's Capcom 2. I don't even know why I even tried to fight this dude on there. But like he just taught me a lot of things in regards to the FGC, and like teaching me the good, the bad, what to stay away from, and what to push forward with. And that's somebody I will always look up to, even though I'm older than him. but you'd be amazed, like some of the people that's younger than you would be inspired by, because they were brave enough to do something that you were afraid to do. So Justin Wong, I would give you your flowers too.
All right.
I like
the Bachelor over here. Yeah.
Hey, don't
All
get me
right.
killed.
All right. So let's try to make these about 30 seconds each, actually, because we are running out of time there. So Cuddlecore.
Oh yeah, so I was gonna say the heroes in my life are, the FGC is my support network, so it includes Alicia, my training partner Shadow, my manager Emily. So they've always accepted me for who I am. They've just been in my corner the whole time. We uplift each other, and we're all trying to be the strongest versions of ourselves. And they always bring out the best in me, and they believe in my strengths, and that actually gives me the courage to always do my best and always know that I'm worth something.
Awesome, James.
Yeah. For me, I always have a core set of people that I always consider heroes. I mean, I won't go into details because I know we're short in time, but you'll know Ricky Ortiz, always one of the biggest heroes. Yipes, Michael Mendoza, of course, and then Tasty Steve. Like these are three of the most inspirational people for me in the fighting game community.
All right, Dave.
Oh,
I feel that part of why we're in sort of the mess that we're in, with lots of bad things having happened and not having talked about it enough, is that we have heroes in the FGC, and we afford those people more control and freedom from consequences. And I don't want that. I don't feel like we should be having. I don't really want heroes.
Let's go.
I don't really want legends. I want people who are down to play games and talk about games and run tournaments. And I think we should all just be treating each other and viewing each of us ourselves sort of as the people who we should be looking up to and doing better in.
Very inspirational for sure.
Yeah. Oh, nice. Oh, nice. You tell him.
So I will quickly mention
So
also.
David's answer is not Cuddlecore then.
So for the short time,
Wow, how
Cuddlecore,
dare you?
definitely her,
How dare
for
you?
Yipes is definitely one for me as well. James, Maximilian as well. Does the YouTube channel. I really love him. But I also have to mention you, James, and David, just because you've been huge influences on me as far as like my, just like doing like the podcast and like how I kind of like just like speak on things and all that. We're running here on 10 seconds now, so thank you all for listening, and hope you enjoy.